Welcome to our video about
American Renaissance, Civil War.
Boston Brahmins, Naturalism and Realism. First of all, we have American Renaissance.
context.
It was a war between Native American and Mexican lands. Urbanization increased, the population moved to cities. It was an abolition of slavery, women's rights, apocalyptic and utopian movements also, and about religion, unitarianism, and transcendentalism.
By this time, the most important influence was the write about the American life.
Okay, here we have the first author, that is Ralph Waldo Emerson.
He wrote Nature and he talked about the important difference between understanding and the reason. Also, he wrote The American Scholar. It is a book learning for Harvard University. Also, he wrote some essays about the different things and he used a new poetry material, for example, the Hindu, and some example of these essays were
Self-reliance, the oversoul and the poet. The second relevant author is Nathaniel Hawthorne.
Okay, he wrote a Railroad, and it is about ironic history about Christianity.
His first novel is a Gothic fiction novel and is called Fan Show.
The next author is Herman Melville. He wrote a Mardi, and it is about criticism the USA.
Also, he wrote a Grace of American Literature, and his name was Moby Dick.
It was the greatest work of American literature.
Now we are going to talk about Edgar Allan Poe. He influenced USA because he wrote this short story, poetry, and his literacy is so criticisms.
He wrote Gothic novels about psychology and the darker side of humanity, and he used a romantic and imaginary language to write.
For his poetry, he used to use musical rhythm. For example,
The Bells and the Raven.
His most relevant works were The Black Cat and The Fall of the House of Usher. They were known as the best Poe's tale.
Now, we are going to continue with the Civil War and the Gilded Age.
There are some political, social, and historical contexts to highlight.
for example, agricultural production increased, the age of slavery, also the expansion about the economy has some reason. For example,
Election of Lincoln, states' rights regarding taxation and slavery, also abolitionism, that Harriet Tubman helped slaves to escape via the Underground Railroad. And the cause number 4 was sectionalism, that was in the election of 1860, and the nation coming apart. The Civil War facts were that 500,000 people were killed and 60% fighting in Virginia.
Okay, in this period of time we have an important author, that is Walt Whitman.
he thinks that American democracy was the key to the future happenings of mankind.
Continue, one of his works was
Lists of Grass. His poems contain lists of signs and objects that in 19th century American could recognize.
Out of the Cradle, Endlessly Rocking. A Backward Glance Our Traveled Rose, that was an autobiographical essay.
There is another relevant author, that is Mark Twain.
On his work, he criticized of Europe, and he was much more critical of American tourists in Europe. One of the most important works was Adventure of Tom Sawyer.
Created using Powtoon.